This is Locker Room Rewind, brought to you by Chunky Nelms Insurance. Here's Ryan Reynolds and Jaydon Hart.
Hello everyone, welcome to Locker Room Rewind, brought to you by Chunky Nelms Insurance. Save up to 50% on your homeowners, auto or life insurance. Shop your rate with over 25 carriers. Yes, more than 25 carriers. That's pretty crazy. Call 325-223-0314 to speak with a live agent today, or visit www.chunkynelms.com. Chunky Nelms Insurance, they have you covered. Ryan Reynolds, joined by Jaydon Hart. It's October 17th, a Saturday. It's also the day after Week 8 or Week 4 if you're the Central Bobcats of the Texas high school football season. A ton of takeaways from our 13 matchups. 10 of those were in the Concho Valley. Jaydon, some overall thoughts?
Well, I guess if we're going to start with the Central Bobcats, the Bobcats get their first win, so kudos to them. They looked impressive last night. We're going to get to Wall and Jim Ned, and that was not going to say surprising necessarily, but I thought that the score was a little bit surprising. I did feel like Jim Ned had a shot of winning that game, so those two games right there I thought were the biggest standouts really across the week. And then El Dorado, what they did to Rock Springs was pretty impressive also. Absolutely.
Another score that stood out to me was the Sonora and Brady score. We'll also touch on, or I guess you can just see that on the ticker as it scrolls by, but we'll touch on that a little later as well. A couple teams, as you mentioned, picking up their first win. A couple teams keeping it rolling as well. But we will go ahead and just dive into District 2-6A, or better known as the Little Southwest Conference. Central, they beat Abilene. You were at that game. 53-32. Central improves to 1-3, getting district started on the right foot, 1-0. Abilene falls to 0-3, 0-1 in district. The thing that stood out to me in this game, Central, the whole talk with them through non-district has been self-inflicted wounds, mistakes, fixing up the turnovers, the pre-snap penalties, the missed tackles. Central in this win flagged 0 times.
I was about to say, I don't remember them. When I was there, they did not receive a penalty, and I don't remember hearing something in the second half on the radio. So
0 times. Can't get much better than that.
No, and I look, this was pretty much what we've been saying for 3 weeks. I know I wasn't here last week, but 0-3 was not an expectation, but something that could have happened to this football team just solely based on the level of competition they face. Coach Davis kept saying, or at least said, don't panic. We're going to be okay. We're getting ready for district. And last night, it's like they've made some progress. Week 1 against Shoemaker, I thought that they played well in spurts. And, obviously against Clemens, that was a bit different story. Then the A&M consolidated game, you're right there until the fourth quarter, in it against one of the top teams in 5A Division II, and then a historic rival, first home game of the season. You just play. I think they scored on all nine drives
except the last one where they were just running out the clock.
Yeah, I know they attempted like a fake punt, but regardless, the point is that Central looked really good in front of the home crowd last night, and offensively they looked good. Defensively, there were times in the first half where Abilene High was driving down and they were in the red zone, but the Central defense held strong and forced field goals. And I think if you're in a Little Southwest Conference, in 6A football, in high school football in general, it's score at will, score. You're seeing these scores where you're seeing 53 to 35 or to 32. It's like that's I'm not going to say a normal score, but a lot of these high speed offense are scoring those kinds of points.
Yeah, and Central has the ability, especially with their skill players. It's almost like Coach Davis for 4 weeks has been telling everyone inadvertently, hey, let's trust the process here. We have a really tough non-district schedule that'll prepare us. It'll show us where we need to fill some holes, fix up some mistakes. And by the time district came around, they did exactly that.
Yeah.
Defeating Abilene 53-32. One of those skill players I want to focus on, a KLST Player of the Week nominee, a really good candidate, Malachi Brown, the senior quarterback for Central. 19 of 28, 336 yards, 5 touchdowns. That ties a school record. I think he's the 5th Central quarterback to do that. And he accounted for 390 total yards of offense. So a great game for Malachi.
That was his best game of this. When when you're tying a school record, clearly it's a good game. That was Malachi's best game of the season. He had 2 incompletions in the first half. I referenced the first half just because that's how long I was able to actually get to stay and watch it. And he looked like he had command over the ball. I think in recent weeks there's been some times that he's made some throws that you're kind of not questioning, but he's missed his targets, and he looked just on last night. I mean, where those passes, they were heat-seeking missiles to receivers' hands, and kudos also to the receiving core.
Yeah,
I mean,
all of them.
Yeah, the Hill brothers played well. I think those were the top 2 receivers. Seth Levesque played well, and that's a huge
coming back
guy to have back. Jalen Lifesty played well. I mean, these guys that at the beginning of the season were 8, 9 guys that are going to be rotating in at receiver. Hayden Box, I know I saw him catch a few, or Caden Box, excuse me. The Central receiving core looked much improved, I guess, from maybe a route running standpoint, at least from the game that I watched in week 1 to now. And then also, like I said, Malachi's balls were good. That touchdown right before halftime, where Malachi, he rolls out, I believe it would be to his right. He's waiting there. Levesque just perfectly comes back to it. Well, you'll eventually see it in this highlight, but Levesque runs a perfect route, stops, makes a 180 turn to come back to the ball, and it was just a perfect, well executed, great pass by Malachi because he threw it to the opposite side where it couldn't be picked off, and then Levesque also having the awareness as a receiver to turn his body and come back to it, and then he just beat that corner for Abilene High. Just, I mean, by that point, after getting beat on the turn, he had that wide open. The Abilene corner tried to dive for him, but Levesque's pretty quick.
No, he's pretty quick, and he's
here. It is right here.
A transfer from TLCA. What a story! I know he injured that knee against.
He had a knee injury.
Colleen Shoemaker week 1, right? Coming back strong. 3 catches, 101 yards. That's a game high. And that 69-yard touchdown, if you're watching the webcast that you guys just saw in the highlights. That gave Central a 29-12 cushion at the half. We mentioned the rest of the receivers, the Hill brothers, Tyler Hill, 5 catches for 83 yards and a score. Weston Hill, 4 catches, 82 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's something that Coach Davis really talked up at the start of the year. He's like, you know what? We lost our best receiver in Tanner Dabbert, but we're becoming more dynamic and more versatile as a wide receiver group. And, I mean, you see that, what's that, 3 different receivers catching touchdown passes from Malachi Brown. And then not even to mention Samuel Navarrete, who they called up from JV to be on this district roster for Central, leading Central in yards, rushing yards, 66 yards, 11 carries, and a touchdown. He has a small frame, but he has a lot of heart and a ton of power. He's a really hard runner. It's good to see, that's just a good story. Coming up from JV.
And Coach Davis has mentioned a few times that he wants skill guys. He needs skill guys, and so that's why you might have seen Tyler Hill, I think, at quarterback against Schertz Clemens. They've got him at receiver for a reason, because Tyler Hill's an athlete. He's only a sophomore. He's an athlete, though, and you want to get your athletes on the field. So it's not surprising that he's going to bring up a guy that's doing well on JV and throw him into the mix on varsity. And I mean, clearly he's an athlete, or he wouldn't have had the performance that he had last night. I mean, for a first varsity game, that's impressive.
Yeah, a lot to look forward to for Central. They go on the road to Friendship, who beat Midland High last night, 37-23. I know there's some quarterback questions there for Friendship. Obviously, you can stay with KLST and KSAN, ConchoValleyHomepage.com. for more on that matchup later in the week. How about Odessa Permian beating 18th ranked Midland Lee last night, 55-44? That really throws
throws me off.
Yeah, throws me off, throws you off, throws me off, throws the District 2-6A projection off. This thing is wide open now.
I mean, it's Permian and everything, but I always feel like I think we talked about it last night, but it's like every year, at least for the recent years that I've been, I guess doing media type stuff, news stuff, it seems like Permian's not necessarily the district favorite, and when they get into district, it's like they turn on a switch. And it's just something about playing. It goes, one, to their coaching staff, Coach Ellison. He hasn't been around just a long time either. But, it goes to just the program that they have. And, Lee is the 18th ranked team in the state. They're the clear cuts to win this district this year. And now, it like you said, it kind of shakes things up, one. Mm-hmm. And what really interests me about this now, because for the first few weeks, I kind of was like, okay, well, so I've got Lee up here at the top. And then, for a while, it was like, okay, it's Central and Permian kind of like switching back and forth. And then, it's like Abilene and Friendship, and then Midland and Odessa, and like the hierarchy has moved throughout the first few non-district weeks, but like after last night, I really look at it now as like Midland Lee, and this is not like at the top, this is like a three-way tie up there at the top. It's Midland Lee, Permian, and Central, and then I think you have Abilene as if Friendship is out without their quarterback, which that's the rumor at least, that their quarterback broke his collarbone, and I didn't go and follow up on my research. That's just the word on the high school football streets. That if that's the case, that Abilene will probably end up getting that fourth place spot, because Abilene, while they lost that game last night, their two other losses, Tascosa by 6 points, Cooper by 10, they were up at half in that Abilene Cooper game. It's and then losing to Central, and we consider the Bobcats a good team, so it's 3 losses against 3 really good teams. So I think that, you play Midland, Odessa, and Friendship, and those are the 3 you got to beat to get the 4th playoff spot, and I think they will. So I think that you really – and what I guess my point of being it, what makes it interesting is Central now goes to Friendship next week. It's a game that I think that for some reason they're not favored. I think that Dave Campbell's computer's still trying to catch up on some things. Central, in my eyes, should win that football game. And then you get the break of Odessa for homecoming, coming here. Obviously, homecoming. That should be a clear-cut, no questions asked win for the Bobcats. And then they'll go back on the road and play Midland High. And again, no offense to my alma mater. That's where I went to school. But Midland High is struggling this year, and Central will probably clean their clock pretty well. And then that sets the stage for, I believe, November 20th, if I remember right, here at San Angelo Stadium, Odessa Permian against Central.
Pack the house.
The whole last decade of that rivalry, and it becoming where a lot of Central fans dislike Permian now more than they do Abilene High. That's going to be awesome, because that very well could be for, if it's not for the district championship, it's at least for a share of the district championship, where you have a situation where if Central then goes to Midland Lee the following week and loses, then it's a 3-way tie for the district championship. So I don't know.
It makes things interesting.
Yes, it really does. Permian shaked things up last night, so
it's good. It makes things interesting for us as media members, but it also makes things interesting for us as fans.
Well, in the entire West, like I've said, I think I fumbled through inside the game last night. It's been a rough week for this guy, but one of the things that I said about the Little Southwest Conference, and I really want to drive this home, is that it gets talked about by the coaches, and you'll hear people that keep up with it, that novelty of the Little Southwest Conference and just the allure that it brings. This district embodies West Texas. It is a staple of Texas high school football. Like, and it's so fitting that in the UIL's 100th season that the majority of the original core is back together, and minus Abilene Cooper. Yep. That would be awesome if they were in it. And then Big Spring, which that kind of had, Big Spring never really had they were in it for a long time, but they were never just competitors. No disrespect to Big Spring, who's actually good this year. But yeah, I think it's awesome that this is the season that we're getting to see that, because the West Texas community can get behind this, and with everything that's going on just everywhere right now, I think it's awesome that the West Texas community can get behind this and just enjoy high school football. Those rivalries and the trash talk, it's all back, so makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, just how historically rich it is. And like you said, it's fitting that it's the UIL's 100th year. We'll definitely take a closer look at that Friendship Central matchup on Wednesday's preview cast. If you haven't subscribed to our podcast feed, go ahead and do that. Just search CVHP Locker Room Rewind on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Spotify is the other ones. Yes. So go ahead and just search CVHP Locker Room Rewind, hit the subscribe button, and you can listen to our previews that go up around 4 p.m. every Wednesday, give or take 4 or 5 p.m. But that one's Central on the road, Friendship, 7 p.m. kick at People's Bank Stadium. By the way, if you are watching, we would like to answer some of y'all's questions. If you do have some questions on high school football, maybe some of our Concho Valley teams, go ahead and leave that comment in the comment section on Facebook, and our awesome technical director, Jeff, will scream at us if you guys have a question.
This isn't formal.
Yeah, no, it's not formal. Just yell at us, Jeff, if you want to, if there's any questions out there. Let's go to the Thursday matchup. District 2-4A, Division 1, a really sloppy loss for Lakeview. Obviously, it's a couple days old now, but it's definitely worth talking about. Lakeview losing to Fort Stockton 65-28 with the loss. The Chiefs fall to 4-4, 0-1 in district. Lakeview, they trailed 50-14 at the half. Just a sloppy game for the Chiefs. 5 turnovers, including 3 fumbles.
This was I think confused a lot of people. Not just the people here locally, not just Lakeview Chiefs fans, not myself, like the media. Like, this was a across the state kind of game that I think a lot of people were confused by, because, well, you mentioned the fumbles. The bad snaps is what it was. There were 2 botched snaps on punts, and then a low snap where Albert had to try to pick it up, and you're seeing that right now if you're watching the live or the webcast, but he couldn't get back to it, and then they scoop it up and take it in for 6. So that's 21 points, and they were going for 2, so it could have been 22, whatever. So regardless, it's 3 touchdowns.
They made 4 2-point conversions in the second quarter alone.
And they started the game. What has been Lakeview's kryptonite all season long?
Running the football.
Stopping the run. Yeah. Stopping the run. And the first 3 touchdowns that Fort Stockton scored were on the ground. And that was 3 more. That's 3 more touchdowns. So there you're looking at 42 points. If you don't have those turnovers, then because it was 26-14 in the second quarter. It wasn't like this game got out of hand right away, but it's when after they had those miscues with the snaps is when this game quickly, progressively took off.
It really got out of hand in the second quarter. You allow 4 touchdowns, 28 points. I guess if you count the 4 2-point conversions, even more than that in the second quarter. If I'm not mistaken, looking at some of these stats, this is the first game of the season Albert Rodriguez has thrown for under 300 yards, if I'm not mistaken.
I think he threw for under – I think he was barely under 300 last week against Hereford, too.
17 of 41, 205 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That contributes to the 5 total turnovers for Lakeview. Bright spot, though. Lakeview's running game, Josh Torres, 17 carries for 126 yards.
He looked good.
He did.
Josh did look good. I was impressed by that. Because that's been not that that's been a real weakness at all. It's just that they've really been slinging it. Yeah. They're 300 yards. They're averaging something 400 plus yards, 440 plus yards of offense a game. It's not the Lakeview Chiefs offense that needs to be worried about, because look, they still go up and put 28 points up in a district game. Yeah, I mean, that's still low for Lakeview by standards, but this is the part that disappoints me the most is Fort Stockton. This is my opinion. My opinion.
We all have them.
Yes, I do not think Fort Stockton will compete against Big Spring, and I don't think they'll compete against Andrews. I think Lakeview to this moment, I still think Lakeview could have won that football game.
Yep.
Even it's because, like I know I'm harping on the miscues, but they were in that game, and you add 3 touchdowns like that, and that sucks the momentum out of a football game. Like people forget how football is a mental game. I mean, you start having problems stacking up, then that hurts a football team.
A lot of those players for Lakeview, they also play both sides of the ball. Mm-hmm. So I mean, when you're committing turnovers, that's a quick turnaround from offense to defense. You're staying on the football field. But no, I think it's important for Lakeview to understand that they had this game. It was winnable, and that they just didn't get 100% outplayed. I think it's important for them to keep that in mind. I think it's important for them to keep that in mind so that they go into next game with some more confidence, given they're taking on the district favorite.
I'm worried about that game. I'm again, opinion, but I'm worried about that game.
I don't know. Lakeview, we'll see if they can
Andrews
bounce
is
back.
good.
Andrews is extremely good.
And it's not a knock on Lakeview. You know what? I hope sit up here and ever wish that our teams lose games. I want Lakeview. These kids going out to practice and each week,
putting a lot of hard work.
They work their tails off, and I like Coach Guevara a lot. I really like Coach Guevara is perfect for the job that he's in, and he has done an awesome job with the Chiefs. I mean, what were we saying before this game? That this is the best start that Lakeview's had through a 7-game stretch. Now we're now in 8 games, but 7 games heading into the week since 2008 at 4-3. They have gotten better each season since he has been a part of this program. And you know, those kids really don't like Andrews Lakeview. Yeah. They really want to beat Andrews, and a lot of those seniors want to get a win against Andrews. It's their final home game. You know, we'll talk about it in the preview, but while Andrews might be this behemoth and they're the favorites to win and they took care of Big Spring last night, I still would not, you know, like the Chiefs are probably going to come out with an attitude that's different. That's not reflective of this football team, the score of this week's Fort Stockton game. They're
Absolutely.
better than what they are.
Everyone has those games as well. Still no excuse, though. I mean, Josh Stewart, look at some other stats. Brandon Herrera, 4 catches for 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. Tristan Franklin, 6 catches for 85 yards and another score.
I'm laughing because there's like a helium balloon going off or something, and I like come back to camera and like looked like my neck was broken like over here. So
no, it's funny because I was solo doing the show last week in this train. The train in Sunset Mall, if you don't know, we do the shows in Sunset Mall. The train kept coming around. Like train, every 4 minutes, and it
train
was
makes me just
loud.
Like, yeah.
I wanted to bang my head on the desk.
Yeah,
that's how loud it was.
Sorry for the podcast listeners, because that is some distracting background noise. We try our best to cut that out, but we're not always perfect.
Lakeview hosting Andrews, who's 6-2.
There's so much going on right now.
Lakeview hosting Andrews, who's 6-2, extremely tough. District 2-4A favorite Andrew next week. That's a jam-packed sentence. Home finale at San Angelo Stadium, kickoff at 7 p.m.
1 point just to wrap this up, and it's not to take another shot at Lakeview or anything like that. It's Fort Stockton coming into this game had scored 54 points in 4 games over their last 4 games. They matched or surpassed that this week with 65. You know, like I said, I feel like Fort Stockton's not going to be Big Spring or Andrews. So, I mean, I will see.
Kudos to Big Spring this year. I know they have nothing to do with kind of what we're talking about right now.
Well, it's their district. I mean, and Big Spring has gotten better, I think. I think Big Spring is going to be a challenge for the Chiefs as well to wrap up the year, because they've got to go back to Big Spring to play that game for a second straight year. So we'll see how things turn out. I know Coach Guevara is probably preaching to the kids, and they respond well to him. So let's see. Maybe we can see an upset next week to wrap up home play.
No, they'll get back to practice. I know after their loss to who was it, Snyder, they started showing up to practice 30 minutes early. For Lakeview or for Andrews, maybe they'll show up an hour and a half early.
No, that's not a matter of work ethic with these kids.
Absolutely,
they try, and
what I'm saying is they're going to want to put in that extra work to beat this team.
And we'll see. Yeah,
we'll see on Tuesday when we go out there for practice. Let's jump to District 3-3A Division 1. Those Wall Hawks, they went on the road to face a tough Jim Ned team. We've talked about it all season long, especially on last Wednesday's cast, that this is going to be the toughest test of the regular season for Wall. And it certainly was. The 9th-ranked Hawks losing to 10th-ranked Jim Ned 28-8. I know you mentioned at the top of the show that score was surprising to you. That likely ends Wall's 9-year run of straight district titles, 9 straight years of being district champions. Who knows what will happen, though?
COVID could happen, but those kids don't want a district title because someone had to forfeit. This was for it, guys. This was for the district championship, and that score's surprising, but in a lot of ways it's also not, because I guess you look at the other losses that the Hawks have had, the talent level on Jim Ned, I would say, maybe isn't the same as Midland Christian or Cornerstone. It may be better than Midland Christian. I don't know about Cornerstone because of just 6'8" kids, but it's kind of the same story in those 3 losses. Good offenses, which the defense plays good enough where, okay, they maybe struggled in the first half of this game. I think it was 21-8 going in the half. The defense played strong in the second half and fixed and made their mistakes. The Wall Hog defense isn't the problem. The problem is Wall's offense. And that's the common theme that I'm seeing. So, you look at what their losses were in all of their losses. Last night, 8 points. Loss against Midland Christian, 6 points. Cornerstone, 6 points. It's the inability to score while their defense, now Midland Christian put 40 up on them. And that we've talked about how that game was weird and everything. But the offense is what I thought was going to be their strong suit coming into the year, with the offensive line that they had, the guys that they had at the skill positions, has not produced against good football teams.
Wall's last district loss, do you know when it was? 2010.
I was about to say, I felt like they've been undefeated in district.
Their last district loss was in 2010. It was an 18-6 loss to Colorado City. I was a freshman in high school when that happened.
But that's why I say, like, and Jim Ned's good. I've said Jim Ned's good and everything, but Jim Ned's really good. Like, this is a good football team that, well, now will probably be in Brock's side of the bracket, which I was going to get to this, and I will get to this. Let's finish talking about this game. But Jim Ned, their JV, this is JV squad, their junior classes, freshman and sophomore, did not lose a game. And they're going to have these guys for another year after this year. And Jim Ned's legit. Jim Ned's good. They beat Cisco. They beat Hallettsville. Yep. Hallettsville's running backs going to Texas today. And these aren't just. I think if Ballinger and Jim Ned played again, Jim Ned probably comes out on top. That was the first week those kids had played varsity football. Jim Ned, crazy. A lot of them.
Crazy. So these two teams, Jim Ned and Wall, they traded touchdowns on the opening drive. Jim Ned, they didn't allow a single point after that. They led 21-8 at the half. Wall had 3 drives that crossed Jim Ned's 30-yard line, but they never really threatened to score after that opening drive. I think when you look at Wall's offense this season, they're really missing the passing attack.
That's what it is.
That's exactly
100% what it is.
Because we saw last year Mason Fuchs, he started throwing the ball a lot more as the season progressed. Trusting his arm. They're not really doing that this season.
Well, that's the thing about their offense is they're going to live and die by the run. That's what they'll tell you. They're not afraid and bashful by it. The thing is, though, that when you have a quarterback like Mason that was able to keep that defense in check, because they're let's run it. We'll run it. 20 times, and then we'll hit you with the play action over the top, and we'll have a receiver wide open because you're playing up, you're expecting the run, and then Mason was able to beat you that way. Drew has struggled to be a just accurate passer, I think is a good way of putting it. He's not a horrible quarterback. I mean, Drew is big,
amazing leader.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Smart as all get out, man. That kid is brilliant. Big kid that'll knock you down when he's running it, and he can. It's not that he can't complete passes necessarily. It's just I don't know how to put it. It's just it seems like they're just slightly off when he throws them. It's just that a little bit of accuracy, which they've got time to clean this up. I still feel like yes, is this team as good as last year's team? In my opinion, I don't think so. But that proved me wrong. And when you've got Houston Guy coaching and the staff that they have, Coach Slaughter defensively has clearly he's doing the right thing because they can go into halftime and make adjustments and hold teams to 8 points or scoreless in a second half. I wouldn't count them out. They're not done. And my point that I was going to make is now if you look at the playoff bracket, now I think Wall can beat Clyde. Clyde is in second place right now at 2-0. So the rest of the district, no disrespect, Wall should beat Early and they should beat Breckenridge, which means the Hawks will finish in second place in that district. If you take a look then at the playoff bracket, and what that would mean is Jim Ned and Brock are on the Region 1 is split into two little sub-brackets.
Actually, we might be able to pop it up.
We might be able to, but I guess – okay, yeah, we can pop it up on my screen. I'm over here. Okay, so let's zoom in a little bit so we can get Region 1 centered. So you see there the W3 is the winner of District 3 3A. That'll be Jim Ned. W4 will be Brock, unless Boyd beats them next week, but I don't think that Boyd is going to beat them. Boyd's undefeated, surprisingly. So then you would have Wall in the first round at runner-up 2, which is – or runner-up 3, which is at the bottom part of the top half right here. I'm scrolling up and everything, and this is kind of a mess. But they would be taking on the third-place team in 4A, which will be either Whitesboro or Pilot Point. That district's good. 4A is good. That will probably be the hardest matchup right away. In the first 3 games, that will probably be the hardest matchup they have. Because then in the next round, you're more than likely playing Bushland. So W2 there, you're playing Bushland. Up at the top is Shallow Water, and then you'd also have the runner-up in 4, which will be Boyd, it looks like. So maybe either Boyd or Shallow Water right there for the region round. And then you have the potential to face Brock in the region final. Brock or Jim Ned. Again, you get a rematch. I mean, I'm not
like to see any of those.
I mean, maybe I'm not going to sit here and say that Jim Ned could beat Brock, but I'm not going to discredit Jim Ned because they're playing good football right now. So it could have been a blessing in disguise because they can get these kinks worked out through the remainder of district. You've still got 3 games left. You then take that into playoffs and you get a bit of momentum behind you before facing maybe one of these top teams in 3A like Jim Ned or Brock again, and who knows? So, I don't know. It's a lot of what ifs, but just kind of something to think about.
It's good to pave the potential pathway through the playoffs so people can know. And then Wall next week you host Breckenridge. They're 0-6. It'll be a good confidence booster. One of those games where you just gain confidence.
Yeah, they should beat them down.
One thing that surprised me, though, was Wall's inability to stop the run last night. Xavier Wishart, again, I hope I'm saying that right.
That was Weishart. Well, I've heard 2 different pronunciations. Yeah,
Xavier Weishart. Apologies for butchering your name. 32 carries, 209 yards, 3 touchdowns for Jim Ned.
He's good.
He's extremely good.
And so is their quarterback, Tate. Yardley. They're both. That's a dynamic backfield that they've got.
They're gonna be extremely good.
That's why I say these kids are only juniors. People like they're gonna be good next year, and we'll see what goes forward with them. That Brock and Jim Ned game maybe. If that's what ends up happening.
Geeking out over there.
Yeah, that's kind of like, ooh, how about that?
Some leaders for Wall. Dominic Garcia, he's had one heck of a season so far. 20 carries. Led Wall's offense with 100 yards. Drew Morrison, he had a 1-yard rushing touchdown, which was Wall's only score of the game. 16 carries for 69 yards. Wall hosting Breckenridge, who, as I mentioned, 0-6 next Friday at Hawk Stadium. Kickoff time, 7:30 p.m. for that one. The other teams in District 3-3A Division I, TLCA versus Clyde, was canceled. I don't think we have any word on when they'll make that up, do we?
Probably won't make it up. I don't think the district didn't put in. They had that bye week before district started, so you're going to have to find a way to work with other teams and potentially try to play like maybe a Wednesday game and then a Saturday game. It becomes a mess. So I think TLCA probably forfeits that game to Clyde. We
will see if they figure something out in these COVID scheduling days. Yeah. District 2-3A Division II Ballinger, they beat Grape Creek 41-0. The Bearcats improve to 7-1, 2-0 in district. The Eagles fall to 1-6, 0-2 in district. The Eagles have yet to score a point in district play this season. I think we pretty much expected that one with Ballinger.
Yeah.
Sonora, though, let's focus on that one. They stomped Brady 44-13. Sonora's offense, who's very run heavy, putting up 44 points against the Shea Easterwood defense. I think that score surprised me. This is also the Broncos' third straight win, and they never trailed in the game.
Yeah,
How about that?
I thought that Sonora was going to win this game, but I did not think that Sonora was going to put 44 on Brady.
Run away with it.
Yeah, run away with it. Coach Easterwood is a very good defensive-minded coach, and that's surprising because Sonora's offense also now, and a lot of this could be because Sonora switched offenses under Coach Sherrill. They were adapting at the beginning of the year. It's not like Sonora just really got taken to the woodshed in any of their first four. Like their first games were not just horrible losses. I mean, there might have been one, but I can't even remember Llano, yeah.
I mean, the other ones were Alpine and...
That was close.
Yeah.
They played Cristobal, and that was close. Obviously, the El Dorado, their first win was close. I mean, yeah, Sonora, they've got a young football
team.
In
the mix.
Yeah, they're young. They were adapting to a new offense, and I think that they've kind of figured it out. It seems like, at least, now Ingram Moore, we figured out about them pretty quickly. We were a little
just looking at the schedule.
Yeah, we were like, hey, well, what do we think of Ingram Moore? I think Ingram was 5-2 now, and they're 0-2 in district, and they'll probably there'll be Brady and them, I guess, battling for the. Wait, the Brady already played them, didn't they?
I believe so.
Yeah, Brady played them last week, and no, they didn't play them last week. Why am I saying that? Brady had to forfeit last week. They play Ingram Moore in 2 weeks. They get Grape Creek next week. Brady does. So that one will be a big game for playoff reasons. I still think Brady's probably the better team, but we'll see.
They're in the I think it's the 4 team.
Yeah,
4 seed.
But back to Sonora, the thing that's interesting, and I know you're probably were going to tease it, but Sonora and Bangs next week.
Oh yeah,
at Bronco Stadium.
That was another podcast plug I was going to throw.
Throw it in. Go for it.
So Sonora's offense. Let's go ahead and just zoom through this. Sonora's offense, 438 total yards, which is crazy. A lot of those yards coming from the sophomore running back Hunter O'Bannon. Also a KLST Player of the Week nominee. 15 carries, 245 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Also added a receiving touchdown. Great game on both sides of the ball for Sonora. And I am so giddy and excited about this Week 9 matchup. You have 3-4 Sonora, 2-0 in district, hosting Bangs, undefeated Bangs, 6-0 overall, 2-0 in district. Next Friday at Bronco Stadium, 7 p.m. Extremely, extremely exciting game. I think this could easily be for the 2 seed. in District 2-3A Division 2. We are going to preview it. Here's my plug coming up if you're waiting for it. We're going to preview it on Wednesday's preview cast. If you haven't subscribed to the Locker Room Rewind podcast feed, just search CVHP Locker Room Rewind on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Stitcher. Hit the subscribe button. You can get notified for when we upload these podcasts. There's my plug. Congratulations, Jaydon. You're giving me this look.
I'm just being silent. No, I just thought, no. So this is the way I look at 2-3A Division 2. Ballinger's the favorites coming into the year. I still think that you have to consider Ballinger the favorites because really, I mean, they've played well. Now, we'll see how they do against Bangs and Sonora. Those are looking like you just said, the 2 and the 3. Bangs was the team that some people were saying, hey, could challenge Ballinger. There's also people that have Sonora as the 2, had Sonora predicted to finish second in the district as well. I think I had Banks finishing second in my projections preview that I just do for my own. I didn't even make it public or anything because I'm scared of the backlash. But no, I have Banks finishing second and then Sonora finishing third. But you know, if Sonora beats Bangs, then you really have to throw in this idea that they could beat Ballinger too. So
there's a possibility there.
And then that makes it even more interesting because if Bangs is on that level with Ballinger, then maybe we have some funky stuff happen and we end up with a 3-way tie. If Sonora beats Bangs and then Bangs beats Ballinger, then we've got a 3-way tie and the fun starts based on scoring and what the district's tiebreaker is, which I have no idea.
Calculate the math. There is a common opponent between Sonora and Bangs. Sonora beat Ingramore last week 28-13. Bangs beat Ingramore last night 47-15.
That's the thing. And that's the difference. But Sonora
could be a little telltale right there.
But this is the thing though. Sonora 44 points is the most they put on the board all season, and that's why we're kind of, you know, bringing that up at the beginning of our spill on them. They control the ball. Mm-hmm. They control the ball, and that's why, you know, against Ingramore you're not going to see that wide margin as maybe Bangs. Bangs is quicker. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
We'll talk more about it on Wednesday. Brady, as you mentioned, 2-5 now, will travel to Grape Creek, who's in search of their first district win.
Brady, hopefully either team. I mean, because like I said, I'm not rooting for any of our teams, but it just seems like Brady will probably, again, opinion, win that game.
Full of them. District 14 2A Division 1. Mason beat Johnson City 55-6 for their 4th straight win after starting the season 0-4. I know we mentioned Mason. They had a tough non-district schedule. Here they are getting back to 500. They'll host Bracketville, who also lost to Ozona last night 40-0. Lions 5-2, 3-0. They'll take on Harper on the road. Any commentary on that one?
I think it's pretty.
Those two.
Well, I mean, it's just the consistent theme of this district is pretty much Mason and Ozona's, and the reason I keep saying opinion is because this is my opinion. People need to learn how to distinguish opinions from fact. I'm sitting up here giving an opinion. It doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it seems like that district comes down to, in 2 weeks, that matchup against Mason and Ozona.
I agree.
More than likely.
I agree with your
opinion. The rest of the district is not in good shape.
District 14 2A Division 2, number 8 Cristoval beat Menard 66-0. They're now 6-1. The Cats are the Cougs. Oh yeah, so 6-1, 2-0 in district. They travel to El Dorado on Friday. You mentioned game of the week on that one.
Game of the week.
We'll talk about it on Wednesday.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a 6-man game that's pretty big too.
11-man game of the week.
The 11-man game of the week.
That's elite. Versus
well, game of the. Let me, man, I'm getting excited over here today, Junior. No, the game of the week probably here in the Concho Valley, without a question, is Cristoval and El Dorado on the road at Larry Mitchell.
Absolutely.
Cats.
Menard, they're 0-7. They'll host Miles next week. We'll throw that paper out of there. El Dorado, they beat Rock Springs 35-12. Another score that kind of surprised me. Rock Springs only scoring 12.
It was close in the first half, though.
It was good.
Yeah, that was a good game in the first half, and that just shows the I think Rock Springs had coaching problems at the beginning of the year, which maybe is why this team is so motivated. They had the talent, and that, they're just working something else in under a new coach. Rock Springs is still good, regardless of the fact that, that changes from 2 weeks ago. Where I was saying they played some pretty poor competition in non-district, but I think when a team starts 4-0, that changes your mentality. And they kept pace with Cristoval last week. They kept pace with El Dorado in the first half this week. But El Dorado, the coaching difference is that John Long is a good football coach and will adjust at halftime, and that clearly shows by the final score.
Second straight win for the Eagles. They're now 3-4, 2-0 in district. As we mentioned, they'll take on Cristoval at Eagle Stadium.
Huge.
Definitely one to watch if you're a fan of either of these teams, obviously, or if you're just a fan of high school football in general. Head out to Larry Mitchell Stadium, 7:30 p.m. kickoff. Rounding out District 14 2A Division II Junction, they handled Miles 66-6. The Eagles really exploded in the second half, running away with this thing. They're now 5-2. Miles 2-5. I really think the winner of this district will have one loss, to be honest. Just in general. I do. That's my opinion.
I want to hear it then.
That's my opinion.
So where do you get that from?
Basically, Cristoval and... See, I'm not good at explaining myself.
I mean, I wasn't trying to put you on the spot. Yeah. No, but
I think the winner will have at least one loss. I guess if you say that, then it will be a three-way tie.
Yeah, right? So it's a three-way tie.
Three-way tie.
So who's beating who?
I think El Dorado could possibly beat Cristoval next week. Don't look past Junction as well.
But that would mean that Junction is 1-1 in district. No, yeah, they're 1-1 in district, aren't they?
I know they're 5-2 overall.
They're 2-0 in district, which means if you get Cristoval over Junction, and then Junction beats El Dorado. So I don't know. My theory is this next game is the district championship. And say what you want, but that was how it was last year. I think these have been the consensus two teams coming into the season that were going to battle for it, and I just feel like it's the case again this year. But I do agree with you that Junction is not someone to overlook. And I mean, now while Rock Springs right now, I know they're 0-2 in district, and they look like they're at the bottom of everything. But I still think you can throw Rock Springs in as a 3 and Junction as a 4, or Junction as a 3 and Rock Springs as a 4. Sadly, that means Miles would miss the playoffs. I think Miles is probably, I'm not going to say done because they could beat Rock Springs, but they're going to have to beat Rock Springs and then hope for some other stuff to happen because they'll beat Menard. Miles should beat Menard.
No,
and, then they got to rely on some other people. But last night's win for Junction was huge for playoff implications, and I think a lot of people knew that going into the night.
I agree. District 8, 1A Division 1, battle of, the Coke County rivalry. Robert Lee squeaking past Broughton. Exciting finish there, 43-42.
What a perfect game for that rivalry and everything. Like, that's what you want. Two teams that maybe – that district is a behemoth with number 1 Westbrook, number 2 Sterling City, and then Highland, who's battling COVID right now. So we don't know how that's going to all play out. But only 2 teams make it in 6-man football into the playoffs from a district. So that was a huge win for Robert Lee, starting district off with a win. But it was an entertaining football game, and they've played 103 times since 1927.
Insane.
So, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, what more could you ask from a classic rivalry?
Yeah, I mean, Robert Lee, they now have 2 wins this season by a combined 2 points. which is pretty cool.
Ivan Escamilla is their guy, man.
The other one coming over very best earlier in the season. The Steers rallied from 20 down in the first quarter, trailed by 13 at the half to take it. Only 2 touchdowns in the second half for this thing being as high scoring as it was. You mentioned Ivan Escamilla. He scored the winning touchdown for the Steers.
Guy's good. I think he's the only senior on Robert Lee's team this year.
Very young team for Robert Lee. They'll take on Highland next week. We'll see if that one stays in play. Bront, they have next week off.
Yep.
District 14 1A Division 1 Water Valley, they continued to roll. They mercy ruled Very Best 63-6. Wildcats' third straight win after starting 0-2. And I was at this game, and literally I told you when I came in from getting the highlights that it just felt like in the air that every play Water Valley ran on offense, it just seemed like it was going to score. And I think you saw that in the highlights. We don't have the highlights.
Harley Davis.
Harley Davis was just... He would run left, cut back right, and it would just work every single time.
I feel like you got to throw him into your little mix of KLST Player of the Week. I mean, do you have his stat line?
Harley Davis, 147 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns.
Okay, so they
Water Valley passed the ball.
I was about to say,
he had a receiving touchdown.
Maybe they started sharing the wealth a little bit from what it looked like at the beginning. He was just dominating that defense.
There was one play. I think it was the last play in the highlights. If you want to look at him on ConchoValleyHomepage.com, Harley Davis was running in the end zone, and there was a Falcon on him, and I think it was one of his linemen just kind of grabbed his shoulder pads and just started dragging him across the goal line. It was honestly pretty funny to watch.
Oh,
but
man.
Connor Wise. Or Weiss, which I actually learned is how you say it.
It is Weiss?
It is Weiss.
Wow.
That's what they were saying over the PA at Water Valley.
We have confirmed.
We are confirmed it is Connor Weiss, 88 yards. He had more touchdowns than Harley Davis. He had 4 touchdown runs.
I mean, he's a touchdown machine. Water Valley's rolling right now.
Yeah, Water Valley, I think they're really feeling themselves. They led 34-0 at the half. They have a big game on the road at Eden.
Fully health
Friday.
Full health
Eden, which is also a good game. I know we're kind of running through these games saying,
you missed a big one in 8-1A Division 1, that number 1 Westbrook versus number 2 Sterling City game, which we will definitely be talking about on Wednesday.
Yes.
Definitely be talking about on Wednesday.
Absolutely plug that.
That's probably one of the best.
I didn't have that on here because neither of them played.
Yeah, they were both. Sterling City was supposed to play Highland. Westbrook was by, so... It's a mess.
They're both in their bio chambers getting ready for that.
They're in the bubble. They're in the 6-man bubble.
So Very Best will host Paint Rock. Speaking of Paint Rock, they fell to Erie and County last night, 56-6. Trevin Kofel, 85 yards through the air, 97 on the ground, 5 total touchdowns for him. Bo Morrow returned a fumble, 22 yards for a touchdown. He also caught 2 touchdowns. And then you have Parker Connor and John Parks. They also had touchdowns for Erie and County. They're now 7-1, 1-1 in district. They have an off week next week. A pretty good time to have your off week, if I'm being honest. Kind of later in the season, only 2-3 games left for some teams. Paint Rock falls to 2-3 and 1-1.
Well, in that district, just to wrap, I guess, things up with district talks and playoff scenarios, this is another one that you kind of have to look towards Water Valley and Eden's game next week. If Eden is able to be the Eden team that we thought they were capable of being when the season started, this because they're a talented group. Mm-hmm. They've been battling injuries. They played a really tough non-district schedule, and I'm not going to try to make excuses for them. And if we're going off the pass, Water Valley should probably win this game by 20 points. But I still feel like Eden's a good football team, and they caught their stride last season at the end of the year, so they're going to be hungry and motivated to beat Water Valley. And if that happens, then the Erie and County Eden game not only becomes a potential for a playoff spot for either one of those teams, but it also becomes the whole district 3-way tie. Because if Erie and County beats Eden, then we've got a mess on our hands.
I think the key in that one will be how successful Eden can be through the air. I know we mentioned on Wednesday, how Water Valley struggles against the pass. You saw it kind of, granted, it was tough competition between Westbrook, Borden County, and was that it?
Highlands they play, but they beat Highlands. So that's when this whole Water Valley wave came onto the scene.
And Eden can throw the ball, but we'll talk about it more on Wednesday. What you can expect during that Wednesday cast: Bangs versus Sonora, Cristoval El Dorado, Water Valley Eden, obviously Central Friendship and Lakeview Andrews, and then also Sterling City and Westbrook.
The game of the week for any of the Concho Valley teams.
A ton of playoff implications, a ton of answers that I think we will.
I've got another hot take playoff little breakdown for that Sterling City Valley or Westbrook game saved for Wednesday.
There we go. That'll be good. Stay tuned if you're a fan of the Jaydon Hart tangents.
Probably no one is.
Tune in to Wednesday's preview cast. But that pretty much does it here for Locker Room Rewind. Week 8 in the books. Week 4 for the Central Bobcats. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's recap cast on the Facebook pages. Thank you so much, Chunky Nelms, for sponsoring the for some insurance, any kind of insurance. They have over 25 carriers, so that's pretty cool. 325-223-0314, www.chunkynelms.com. That pretty much does it here for us on Locker Room Rewind today. Ryan Reynolds, Jaydon Hart will be back on Wednesday to preview Week 9 and Week 5. Until then, everyone have a great weekend.